And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
The Warriors just announced that investor Mark Stevens is not allowed to attend any more of the NBA Finals games after his inappropriate contact with Kyle Lowry. This is according to the Warriors. Mr. Stevens' behavior last night did not reflect the standards we hope to exemplify as an organization. We're extremely disappointed in his actions, and along with Mr. Stevens, offer our sincere apology. He will not be in attendance at any of the remaining games of the 2019 NBA Finals. That, to me, is the minimum. Let's bring in RIC BUCHER, who covers this team and the NBA, senior writer, Bleacher Report, podcast Bucher and Friends, cover the NBA since the early 90s. I came out pretty strong to start the show. Your thoughts about what I said and what they just did?
100% agree. It's one thing if it's a beer-soaked fan, a casual fan, someone who's never sat in a courtside seat before. None of that applies to Mark Stevens. He's a representative of the Golden State Warriors. He's been there before. If anybody should understand the culture and the comportment of somebody in a sideline seat, he should. And my biggest problem with this is that and I don't know that just banning him for the remainder of the NBA Finals games is enough, because you need to put a stamp. You need to stamp out this kind of behavior from fans.
By the way, I've seen it more this year than I ever remember.
It is escalating. And the problem is that players at some point are going to come back. And what happens if Kyle Lowry goes back at him?
He looks like for about a half second, Kyle was like, I'm going after, and then Kyle smartly is like, okay, I've been in this league a long time. Get the hell out of there.
But that is the risk that you run. And if you make allowances, again, the biggest issue that I have is Mark should know better. If anybody, you are part of the Golden State Warriors.
He gave $100 million to USC. They got buildings named after him. This is a grown-up. Like, I think the standards are higher for the wealthy and the people on the suites. The standards are higher.
And you should understand that this is the NBA. This is entertainment. This is business. You're reacting emotionally like you're playing in the game. That's my greatest issue with fans who begin to think that they are part of the teams that they cheer for. No, you're not. Cheer all you want, but you're not taking up battles. You're not part of the equation. That is where I disagree with you with Drake in terms of this doesn't equate to that. But Drake, you getting into it, calling Draymond Green trash, you again are connected with the Toronto Raptors. Be a little bit better than that.
Yeah. I think, not to be Sigmund Freud, there is a psychology here. As Silicon Valley, ultimate wealth, you do feel impenetrable. When you can pay $30,000 for a seat, there is a sense of, I am special. Money makes people feel smarter and special. Golden State's got the richest people in the world sitting in that arena.
Colin, I live in the Bay Area. I've seen the transformation. It's disappointing. The level of entitlement across the board, the lack of etiquette, the lack of the simply, I have the most money, so I get to do whatever I want. It has changed the culture of the Bay Area in a profound way and not in a good way.
By the way, there was a study done years ago. I think Stanford did the study that they found that people in nicer cars at a four-way stop felt they had the right of way. And so they, over the course of years, they watched cars that came to the intersection, and new cars over $80,000 in value, those people just blew through it, waited less. Because I'm rich, I have a Range Rover, I go before the little Kia guy.
And actually, if you're driving a Tesla, you're doing more for climate, so you don't have to stop at all. You just get to go.
There you go. All right, so last night, my weird take on this was, hey, Kyrie and Kevin Durant, see how well he played with Steve Kerr at home and Draymond Green? Irrelevant. Lost. Like, you go ahead and hang out with all those B and C guys in Brooklyn and the Knicks and Kevin Knox. Steph was unbelievable last night.
Yeah.
With Draymond, with Iggy, with Boogie, with the culture, with the system, with Steve Kerr at home. Didn't really compete.
I'm not going to put Kyrie in that category, but KD is in a different category completely. Steph, this is the superpower of Steph and the magic of the Warriors, is that he knows who he is and who he isn't. He knows he's finals, and they have Giannis and what? And I'm better. I mean, if you're going to ask me, do I take Giannis or I take KD? It's not even close.
Yeah.
I'm taking KD every day, all day.
Me too.
So I think he looks at this and says, in the West, you might have a case. But in the East, I could wind up in the finals and it wouldn't be that hard.
I think Steph should have left the floor last night, went over to KD and said, I had 47. We lost. This is why we need you to stay. It's Charles Barkley said yesterday, it was kind of interesting. Charles was on, I think it was at Dan Patrick's show, and he said, do we have any sound of this stuff? And he basically said, all these guys are crap. All these reporters saying they know where guys are going. Here's what Barkley said.
I don't think these players know where they're going. You know how I know that? Because all these guys are caught between a rock and a hard place. They can't go anywhere by themselves. That's the biggest problem all these guys got. No matter how great, whether you talk about Kawhi, KD, Kyrie, Jimmy Butler, none of these guys can make a move until something happens. If you go to a team by yourself, your team is not going to be any good.
It's funny. Is it possible Jimmy stays in Philly, KD stays, Clay obviously stays, Kawhi stays, more money, you're winning games? Is it? I mean, the NBA, let's be honest, the CBA, they kind of want this.
They've been trying to create the scenario where guys, the money is just too great for them to leave.
Right.
But it hasn't worked so far.
Well, Paul George,
that wasn't the driving force.
He says that.
It was his relationship with Russ Westbrook. And the fact that everybody thought he was an LA guy, he's a Palmdale guy. And Oklahoma City probably has more in common with Palmdale than LA does. He's a country kid.
Everybody keeps telling me about all these guys moving. I just don't buy it.
Jimmy Butler is the one that I have the hardest time seeing staying, just because he knows that he's not going to be the straw that stirs the drink. He's never going to be that in Philadelphia, and he has aspirations of moving a little higher in the pecking order with whatever team that he goes to. When it comes to KD and Kawhi, one of the elements that we don't talk a whole lot about is their health, and that being a factor here. Kawhi, from everything I've heard, has developed a great trust, and I think you and I have talked about it before, in Alex McKechnie and how they've handled his injury. When you've had the history that Kawhi has, who was in the training room, who was extending your career is a big thing. The Phoenix Suns long had an advantage when it came to this. It's why the New Orleans Pelicans stole their athletic trainer. The Atlanta Hawks, when Travis Schlenk took over, the first thing he did, he stole somebody from the Golden State Warriors. That is an element that players pay attention to. Now, I'm not saying it's the defining thing, but in the case of KD and Kawhi, we're talking about two guys right now where injury is an issue.
Yeah, Durant and Kawhi are older veteran players who put up a lot of minutes in.
Exactly. And so KD may be looking at it not just from the treatment, but do I want to go someplace else at this point and carry that load? If there are lingering issues with this calf problem, if he takes a month off coming into Golden State, that's not a problem. If he goes to New York and he gets there and he signs the big deal and there's the big hurrah and then he can't play at the beginning or he's limited. Dwight Howard went through this very thing when he went to the Lakers. Nice. He should not have been playing. His back was to a place where he was having a difficult time rising up on his toes. I saw it. But he felt a pressure because I'm here, I'm with the Lakers, I'm supposed to be the new thing. And he went out and he played a lot sooner than he should have, and he was never the same again.
Let's talk about Game 4. I didn't think the loss last night. Joey and I said it. I think they should have sat Klay Thompson. My takeaway is get everybody healthy. This team's trailed 3 times 2-1. They'll be fine. They win on the road. They win with injuries. What you don't want is to re-aggravate Klay Thompson. How big was the struggle last night before the game for the organization to sit Klay? Was there a real struggle?
Well, Klay obviously wanted to play.
Right.
You could tell that just looking at him on the bench. It was, I don't know that it was that much of a struggle for Steve Kerr to make this decision because he didn't want to have to second guess. Did I play him and he got hurt? Because here's the thing is, for exactly what you said, does anybody think that because they lost Game 3 that they still can't win the series?
No.
No. There wasn't enough at stake last night to push the envelope and to get Klay out there. I fully expect, and I think it's been reported already, he's going to play. He will start in Game 4. I believe they're going to play the same game with KD. Do we need to play him in Game 4? Do we need to win Game 4? No, it's not a closeout game. Let's give him a little more time. Let's see if he, and obviously he's going to go 3-on-3. We'll see how he responds today. There's a chance he plays in Game 4, but I believe that they're the druthers of the team.
Is Clay 4, KD 5.
KD 5 if need be. And let's say they win and they're going back for game 5 and it's all tied up. Maybe you give KD even another game. And you just make sure that when all the chips are on the table, it's a closeout game, we are at our greatest health.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
For Golden State now, Toronto's facing an MRI. They're essentially facing, I mean, it's a chess match. It's like,
yes,
let's just keep moving our guys until we absolutely have to have our stars.
Yes. But look, I'm looking at the other side. I don't know if you saw it with Fred VanVleet. Had an impactful game. But at one point, he looked like he was running with a piano on his back.
Yeah.
I mean, literally trying to get back, and he couldn't move. We've talked a lot about the Warriors and their health, but Kawhi Leonard's not 100%.
No.
Kyle Lowry's not 100%. Fred VanVleet's not 100%. They are ailing as well. So this really is, it's a battle of attrition. And not to date myself, but the Monty Python with the knight keeps getting limbs sliced off and he's still fighting. I feel like that's what I'm watching here between two teams. Who's going to have the most left?
No, I think that this is part of the NFL. It's remarkable how often the NFL teams that get to the Super Bowl are the healthiest teams.
100%.
It's the way it works. Rick Bucher, great stuff. Coming up next, the Raiders, more bizarre news. That's next, The Herd.
Designed for exhilarating performance